wonder why Gambino got the game. Half-tied thicky, all she wanna do is bang. Got her hair done, French braids, now she ain't.
Lacey to get in here. Bruh. What's up, Greg? My brother's on here.
Hello.
Oh, you look so cute.
Thanks.
I
put on a. Oh, you look cute. I like the go-to the cheetah.
Yeah.
I have my summer top on because I'm trying to convince myself that is like a normal summer. I feel like I'm way too close. Let me scoot this back. Okay.
Yeah. When
There
you
we
do
go.
with two people, it's always like, okay.
I know. I go. Huh. Okay. How's it going?
It's going great.
Dude, we got so many questions, and it makes me really excited. But I was trying to consolidate, and I feel bad because I'm just gonna be honest. We're not gonna be able to get to all of them.
Yeah.
There ended up being like 200 with the last influx from this morning. But I've got them written down on pages, guys.
Cute. You're so cute. Also, hey Dion and Federico asking me where I bought my hair. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that.
No, we don't. Oh my gosh. So, as some of you guys know, we have launched the podcast. So that's a resource now we're happy to add to the resources that we were asked about in these questions about like what Instagram. So let's start with that one. What Instagram pages do you like to go to for mental health? And like, inspo or just like affirmations?
I don't have a specific one. Usually, to be honest, I kind of just type in like a hashtag BPD and then go from there.
I love that. I've done that with bipolar.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of pages, there is one that's BPD specific. I can't think of the name of it. But I just do that. Type in my issue in a hashtag and then find.
Hey, I recommend it. Because it's all about finding people who get you. You know what I mean? And thank God that the positive to social media is that we have hashtags at our disposal to search. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wrote down a couple of mine. And I think, Maddie, you might follow some of these. I'm not sure. Do you know Morgan Harper Nichols? Oh, she is a great illustrator and poet, writer. Hers I recommend, and I can post like something on my story, I guess, after this with links to these. Yeah. Also, this is a temporary podcast because we're a new little page. One of my favorite therapists is Nedra Tawwab. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly. I hope I am. She's amazing. She specializes in healthy relationships and boundaries. So her stuff is really good. The Holistic Psychologist, Therapy for Women, and Self-Care for Everyone. Those are some of my favorites. And I repost them a lot anyway on my story just because I'm like, oh, yeah, I felt that,
Right.
Someone said, let's see, I like this one. What has been the toughest thing for us during this tough year? And what has helped make things better for us?
Toughest thing this year, I think it's just the uncertainty. It's just the question mark at the end of everything
we're
talking about.
Yeah.
Be really anxious. What's been the light? I mean, the show coming out for me.
Absolutely.
I've had all the fans. I've had a bunch of interviews keeping me busy, which is honestly, I don't know how I would be feeling right now if it wasn't for the show coming out. I think I don't care. Wow.
And also, like, it's cool that you are still getting to be creative right now. A lot of creatives are having to find, but you're still getting to collaborate with people, whether it's through, the platform of talking to other people or your photo shoots. I think that's a fun way to collaborate and get out, some expression that way.
Definitely.
That's what I'm really excited to see.
So nice to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Okay, let's see. Oh, I like this one. What are some ways I can better control my emotions around people? Because that one's tough.
Girl, I don't know.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, I'm curious to see what Maddie says, because
That's
okay, for
tough.
instance, I was talking to my friend Jonathan yesterday for an episode of This Is Temporary, and he brought out a scene from Where Harry Met Sally, that movie with Meg Ryan, and he was like, there's a part where he has an outbreak, and she tells him, it's okay to have those emotions, but you can't just do them anytime, anywhere, or like break out like that. And I mean, not that I have those all the time, but like, and most of the time I've had outbreaks. So I guess it's that balance of like finding grace with yourself if you do burst. And then also, finding that routine that can help you get through the times where you're like, hey, I need to hold it together for the next 8 hours, and I'll wait until I'm home till I can lose it, or let out what I need to let out.
I've never been accused of having a filter ever.
Yeah,
I I think something for me, I feel a lot of guilt after I feel really emotional around people.
Yeah.
Like I get immediately uncomfortable. I'm like, why did I should have said absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's I tend to just let my emotions go. I do.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, same.
Some things to myself. But I feel like I feel like I've just embraced that as part of my personality. I don't think I would be who I was if I was like, I'm just going to feel this in private.
Right.
But I think as far as feeling like, just take a step away if you need to.
Yeah.
Definitely walk away. I will never encourage people to bottle things up. I don't want you to be like, keep it to yourself forever. Either like, take some space, feel what you're feeling, and then like really let out later, but like make sure you let out. Make sure you find that time to feel what you're feeling. Like don't be like, oh, my answer's not gonna be like, oh, just don't feel things in front of people. Like that's not.
Yeah. Because I'm the type of person as well. I kind of wear it on my face, and you can tell. And I might be able to hold myself from combusting most of the time in front of people. But I think you and I have talked about how we're big fans of the timeout rule, where it's like, and whether you need to make it like a one-on-one, like with someone you trust, or if it's even in a group setting, just knowing when you need to step away, like you said, just like
you're able to communicate, then communicate it and be like, hey, here's what I need from you. I just need like you to either stop poking me. Yeah. I'll poke back.
Mine depends on the person, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, either that or just like if you can't communicate it, because sometimes when I'm feeling so much, it's very, very hard for me to speak at all.
Yep.
Like I'll be very quiet and everyone's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, something about me can't talk about it because there's too much happening and things are moving way too fast for me to be able to communicate that, and it's not gonna make sense. So
I think I turn into a jumbled mess because I talk a lot, and when I get emotions that are too overwhelming to form, I don't have the words yet. Sometimes I try to have the words because either I feel like I should have them or people are pressing me to have them, and then it sounds bad when I try to bring something out, and then it's just or it's jumbled, and it's like, well, that helped nothing. So I think feeling that, like allowing yourself to be silent or to be like, tapped out for a second is okay. It's okay. A lot of what we talk about is like giving yourself the permission to feel things, giving yourself the permission to sit with things, giving yourself the permission for everything, because there's not much in our control in this life. But what is in your control is, how you treat yourself and how you think, or not necessarily how you think, but what you choose to believe. Because all kinds of thoughts, and we've got lots of questions on like OCD thinking and things like that, and we'll get to those. But I think just giving yourself the permission to be in process and not okay, and for you to not feel like you have to carry shame around that, and we're telling you don't.
Definitely.
We wish someone had straight up told us, and at some point people did tell us you don't have to feel shame about that. Okay, let's see. When and how did you realize you needed to talk to a professional? And then how did that diagnosis process work?
For me,
Yeah.
I realized it after a long day of mental breakdowns that I was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like,
Yeah.
really, I have zero control over my brain right now. I need to figure it out. And I snapped. I was like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I came home crying to my parents, and I was like, I need to go see somebody. Something's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
not
But I love that at that age
right.
you knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely like, okay, like it keeps happening and happening of me just like not knowing what's going on. So I went, they diagnosed me and I left, you know.
Yeah.
I talked about this before.
Yeah.
Therapy, not my jam.
Right.
But I wanted the diagnosis so that I could figure it out on my own. At least
Right.
like call it something instead of like, hey, you're crazy. You
Right.
know, like have
Right.
an actual name for it.
Well, yeah, no, and that's the thing, depending on different types of people and it's like in different diagnoses, some people just need that. And another question actually that's deep in here, but it applies right now, was someone asked, how can you tell the difference between being a moody teenager, which I definitely understand, being a moody teenager or actually having like serious mental health issues?
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I understood that to mean like, because I felt back and forth because I kind of had my reality invalidated at a young age. And so I was always told I was just being dramatic, even though deep down I knew something was wrong. I always knew. But I think when you realize that things start legitimately interfering with your everyday life and inhibiting you from being able to function as quote unquote normal, whatever that is, it's very hard to pinpoint it. But if it's interfering with you every day and whether, because there's so many different types of, you know, mental health challenges, but I think once you realize that it's inhibiting your everyday life, that's when it's something to seek help for.
I see a lot of people asking me what I'm diagnosed with. I have borderline personality disorder.
Yes.
BPD.
Yeah. And mine's close. Mine's BP2. Bipolar 2.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I've had people be like, wait, so Maddie's BPD, she has bipolar disorder? And I said, no, BPD is borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder.
Yeah. Yep. Although they sound
It's
similar.
a fun one.
Yeah, and we have some similarities we've talked about.
Yeah.
Which helps us connect.
Yeah. I think the difference between that, because a lot of therapists actually hold off on diagnosing people with borderline personality disorder when they're young.
Yep. As well as bipolar.
Fun fact, which is complicated and weird that sometimes people can't tell the difference between, you know,
right. Well, I think that, I mean, the same thing with bipolar. They were scared to diagnose me early, so they didn't. They would tell me all these other things, which were also symptoms of what I was dealing with, like ADHD, ADD, OCD, anxiety disorder, and depression, until I finally at 21 received that bipolar diagnosis, because oftentimes people can be misdiagnosed because certain symptoms can look similar to other diagnoses, and they don't want to wrongly diagnose you or wrongly prescribe you.
Yeah.
So it takes time. I think there's definitely, and this is coming from someone who does not have patience as a virtue, but it takes patience. It takes resilience to get the right medication if you require that, or the right diagnosis if you require that.
Yeah,
but it's always worth hanging on for.
There definitely is a difference between just like being emotional and having personality disorder or having some actual deeper mental health issue.
Right. If you feel like you can't regulate your emotions.
Yeah, I think for me, realizing that it was the difference between being dramatic and being moody was the consistency of what I was feeling, of like, I started realizing I have certain triggers. When this happens, and then I can't talk, which is weird. Why can't I talk? I talk so much. Like, that's strange, very off-brand for me, that I get to a point, and then I'll get to a point where I feel really numb, which is also weird for me. I was like, you start realizing the things that are just
You're
like,
right.
this is me in a bad mood, and like this is also just like not something I would like this doesn't
Right. Well, you
feel-
start realizing that there doesn't seem to be any rationalization or reason behind why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
Yeah.
That's what was a trigger for me. I was like, and it would make me feel more shame before I fully understood bipolar and depression, because I would be like, my life does look good on the outside, and people would be like, why are you sad? Why are you depressed? Why are you like, and it would be hard because I wasn't trying to get people to pity me. I legitimately felt like I wanted to die. But I couldn't explain it, and I had no reason for it. And it just made me feel like shameful about myself. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm ungrateful. It perpetuated the trauma I already had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once, like you were saying, once things stick out in a way that doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
a diagnosis and professional help can help you make sense of things.
Definitely.
And I understand that the unknown is probably part of the scariest part. So another thing people were asking about is, how do we overcome the fear or shame or embarrassment involved in approaching parents or people to seek out help, or to tell your parents that you have mental health issues? Because
Yeah.
my thing was, everyone's situation is different. So there is no one right way to answer this, but I think my therapist and I talk about addressing the emotions involved in it. So if you're afraid, ask yourself, why are you afraid? You know, what's behind that fear of talking to them, and kind of boiling it down to that, and how can you overcome that fear? Because for me, and I think for Maddie too, we got to a place where our reality of what we were experiencing was too overwhelming that we had to overcome the fear, because we had to have help. It was like, I can't ignore this anymore, because I went ignoring it on and off my whole life. I would go into therapy sessions and be looked at by psychiatrists, and then it would go away for maybe a year or two, like when I was 14, 15, and then I would visit someone again, and then, you know, and then it was like, when it would flare up, that's when it was like, oh, maybe she needs help. And then I would try to get away with being okay. But finally, yeah, when I was 19 and then 21 again, it was too much. I wasn't able to function like normal, and I was scared. And my fear of what I could become and what I didn't know was more scary than the fear of what will people think. And you know, and I don't know. Yeah.
It's definitely about outweighing like pros and cons. Like make a fucking list. Like literally right now,
Right.
like, pros and cons. Like
Yeah, I like that.
think about like if you're really struggling and you genuinely feel like either therapy or a medication or even just talking about it is going to help, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. It's definitely worth it. This is your life. Definitely take care of what you need. I'm sure it's really stressful. It was stressful to me to tell my parents, because neither of my parents struggle with any mental health issues. Wow. So I'm like, that's stressful in and of itself, because they're like, what have you been talking about? Like I've been told I've been dramatic and I've been XYZ my entire life and blah blah blah, and nobody was ever like, it's probably an actual problem. Right. They didn't know to look for it, you know? Yeah, but I know what I'm experiencing internally, and you know when something's off. You know the difference between like being emotional, because I have times where I'm like, I am just emotional. Like that's a whole different thing than my disorder. Like there's sometimes I'm just kind of sad. But there's a difference between that kind of sad and then my borderline personality sadness, because that shit is no joke. Like, yeah, you know the difference. It's true. It feels different. Yeah, I have to ask myself whenever I am really reactive or emotional or overwhelmed. I have to sit with myself and go, what's going on in my life right now that could be causing this? So is there a cause? So is this, either way it's valid, but is there a cause that I can link it to validate myself first that way? And if there's not, and if I don't feel in control, if I don't feel like I have the clarity to separate anything, that's when I've learned with experience that at that point, I can't help it. You know, at that point, there's obviously,
this is out of my control and this is a bipolar episode or a mixed episode, a depression, a hypomanic, something where I'm not feeling in control.
Yeah.
So I'd say ask yourself, do I feel in control in this moment? Like, do I feel like I can stand up and go, you know, do some yoga or write some affirmations or pros and cons, whatever it is. So I feel like I'm aware enough to separate my thoughts. And if you're not, you know, that's definitely a clue for you that maybe you do need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that. I mean, whew, therapy and just having the professional help of my psychiatrist and everything, and not just that, but like other resources, even on social media, like we talked about at the beginning, these Instagram accounts that are dedicated to positive affirmations or self-healing, self-care words with, you know, cute artwork that you can make your background. Or the holistic psychologist is great because, you know, she comes from a very like psychological point of view of let's really dig deep into the work I'm doing now. It's like healing your inner child. And she thinks, you know, we have all these symptoms of like panic and anxiety and insomnia and the list goes on. But when we get to the root of it, where does that all come from? And a lot of it's really trauma based. And I think that's something I'm interested in now as well, is the difference between trauma based stuff and genetics of like inheriting a mental health diagnosis kind of thing or illness.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. This one's good. How can they